Good morning, everyone. I'm Morgan Laughlin, your 2020 Miss Rodeo California. And this morning I'm here with Livermore local Nick Laduke. Hi, Nick.
Hello, everybody.
So, you are successful in rodeo. You were a college national finals rodeo short bow qualifier, a two-time Ram National Circuit Finals rodeo qualifier, and in 2017 you were 29th in the world standings for the saddle bronc riding. How did you get your start in rodeo?
Um, well, I think with having the availability to have three rodeos in the Bay Area, when you're a little kid growing up in town, the option to still go to a rodeo and watch it from the stands is still an option to this day. So for me, I was just a kid with a single mother in Pleasanton, and she came from a farm community in Kansas and didn't have really any of that tie out here to California. So we went to the Cow Palace, and I think my mom just figured out that genetically I was probably destined for it, because we went to the Cow Palace and that was the first time I'd ever sat still for any extended period of time, she said.
That is awesome. How old were you when you started rodeoing?
I had an opportunity to go get on two calves when I was 6, and then had two epileptic seizures, grand mal seizures, back to back. And I was born with a heart condition called WPW, Wolff Parkinson White syndrome. So with the dual syndromes, I got to get on two calves, and then after that, the doctors wouldn't clear me to do any of that stuff until I was 14. So I had a gap where I didn't do any rodeo activities at all, because they would have cleared me to do the timed event stuff, but we didn't have enough money for horses and stuff like that when I was little. So I just had a gap from 6 to 14 where I played traditional ball sports and wrestled and did all that fun stuff.
From doing the traditional sports to rodeoing, what would you say you gained from that in your rodeo career?
Traditional sports, just for me, it's all physical. I mean, obviously you learn how to be a winner if you're kind of a talented ball player when you're little, because it's a small pond kind of gathering until you get to play like Babe Ruth baseball or, traveling soccer or something. So it kind of develops that mentality of that child that's going to be slightly tuned to be sports oriented, but more or less it's just doing the physical stuff that you do in all those sports that allows the body to keep developing in a way that you can become an athlete with some sort of chance to be successful.
Right. So you went to West Hills College in Coalinga, as well as the University of Las Vegas, Nevada, correct?
Correct. UNLV.
UNLV.
Running Rebs.
What was your major in college?
I had a liberal arts AA that I graduated with out of West Hills. And at that point, I kind of loved rodeo so much that, school was kind of a secondary thing at that point for me. When I was in high school, I thought about going to vet school and doing this and that, because school for me, I always kind of focused on it and made dang sure that I did well in it, So by the time I get to college, rodeo took me over, and at that point, it wasn't about my degree anymore. So I ended up transferring to UNLV, talked to the whole team, talked to some staff and stuff, and tried to figure out like the easiest way to navigate a bachelor's degree out of UNLV. And it turned out that it was a sociology department, but in the end, I didn't even do it the way that they said was going to be easiest. I got interested in it, and it was a great experience. And I ended up kind of actually doing it the hard way through the same department. So, and by hard way, I don't mean take more years, but I just got interested in classes that there was definitely not going to be any slack cut if you miss class because you're out of rodeo and things like that. But sociology is what the major ended up being in, and it was kind of by accident. But now that I see, what cultures can do and what the world's up to these days, I'm kind of happy that I did get educated from that side of it, because it seems like a lot of my friends have business degrees or or animal science degrees or ag business degrees. And, in this time, having a little understanding of sociological movements is kind of important, I think.
Yeah, that is awesome. So a lot of counties, especially near us, the state of California, across the United States, are being recommended to shelter in place. Are you sheltering in place? And during your shelter in place, what are you doing to keep yourself busy?
Oh, heck. I've always loved horses my whole life. So now that me and my wife finally have our ranch um, open here in Knightson, California, it's been hog heaven for me because hell, shelter in place was what I finally got to do when I was 14 years old and started working with my colt out at Dorothy Basso's house, and getting to finally chase a dream. So for anybody that's complaining about shelter in place right now, you probably don't have any inclination to go be a world-class athlete, because there's a lot of repetition to be done by yourself when you're in the deal. So I guess to answer that, shelter in place right now for me just looks like going out there and grabbing one of them horses and riding around or hitting a workout on the road, and all these cool technologies that you people are exposing me to, like this here Zoom app. Hell, you get to communicate with people, so it's not that bad. Got me a puppy.
So you got your puppy, you don't even have to leave your house for an interview. It works out, right?
And she's so used to me being loud that she just falls asleep on my lap during an interview, so we're good.
Speaking of your place in Knightson, we've talked a little bit before. You have some high hopes for that. What do you plan to do with the place there?
So I have a background in kind of combat sports too. I've made a lot of friends that way. So I wrestled, I worked out with the boxing team at UNLV. And then I've done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Also, I was a Jiu-Jitsu World League national champion in 2018 at the blue belt level. So not the super intense dudes, but the lower levels. So for me, it's going to be an equestrian / kind of martial arts crossover to a certain extent. There's so many similarities between athletes at the highest level in pro rodeo and at the highest level. Right. I see the similarities. You go down the chain, it definitely becomes more gray. But my friends that are at the highest level of like the UFC, and my friends that are at the highest level of pro rodeo, those are the same people. You literally are the same people. And I just have found that there's still a disconnect between what the urban American knows and what the agrarian American knows. So being that I've found the similarity with these kind of people, there's absolutely no reason why we all shouldn't know the same narrative. Like there's only one truth when you get to the top of the world. And my goal with this is to utilize that one truth between those two kinds of people and do a lot of good for anybody and everybody. I've in the initial phases of trying to get in contact with Contra Costa County and try and work with their juvenile probation department, which I believe runs their correctional facilities for the juveniles. I might be wrong there. And then, I've got another friend that does really good with kids on the spectrum with autism. And he's out of Dublin, California. And we've got some of these high profile athletes that will creep through my place, so I'm just doing everything I can right now in the bare phases, on my own dollar to just start this program and get it running. And hopefully the byproduct of that is the facilities have me riding horses every day and, training horses. And, hell, I'm 35 and I kind of retired premature of my body being done with the sport. I think my mind was more done than my body was. So if I can get all this built soon enough, I still might even have a year in there where I could crack back out and show the world that I'm better than I was when I left,
That is awesome. So before I let you go, you had mentioned that you had some difficulties with your health as a kid, And obviously that has been a struggle for you. It's something that you've had to deal with. What advice do you give to other kids or adults even that have to deal with health problems, whether it's in rodeo, in sports, or just in general?
You can only wipe so much dirt on things. uh, sorry. But yeah, no, you can only wipe so much dirt on stuff, I think. And it kind of strikes a bug in me, just, oh, let me take a break. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Take your time.
Yeah, you can only wipe so much dirt on stuff, and there's a lot of science out there, to kind of draw truths to things. So, pay attention to the details in life. Like, if you come up with something like, I was born with this heart condition, not born with, and it moved in, and there was an epileptic part of my life and stuff like that. Like, you got to listen to everybody around you. But I think what it really does is it teaches you how to listen to yourself. And there's so much information out there, and people want to sell you something, and it's always about $1, but your body and in a relationship spiritually, outside of your body, can do a lot more to tell you if you're making good decisions or bad ones in life. And I think that, we never talked about my leg issue either. Like, I have a right leg that I broke in high school, just because I had to kind of come up the rough way without having good mentors really from inside my family to kind of keep me out of danger. So I just jumped in, get on in wherever I could. So on top of that, like, I had a leg that's a little over an inch shorter than my left leg my whole entire professional career. So it kind of offset a lot of my center and what your spine does and your nervous system does. So on top of having a heart condition, that kind of taught me what I could put in my system and still perform in my mind. I had a leg that showed me that when you walk crooked all day long, that it does a lot to your nervous system and your center of balance. So with that also being understood, not every doctor gets it. Just because you go to the doctor, they don't necessarily get it. And just because you go to the best doctor on planet Earth, we didn't even touch on the fact that I had a daughter pass away at Stanford Hospital this year after 5 days. Like, I was with the best staff on planet Earth, and they'd never seen what my daughter was born with, the dual combination, So all I can say is we're all humans, and the most important thing you could ever listen to is yourself and that internal mechanism that's given to you by a higher authority. And be true to that first, and then do what the doctors tell you second, because they're only humans. But I think that's probably the best advice I have.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on here and figuring out the Zoom app and talking to me and answering some questions. I hope that, for health and safety around you, and I'm ready to get through this pandemic and to get on with our rodeo season. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me. Keep an eye on Agape Ranch out here in Knights in California. It's in the bear makings right now, but I bet some big stuff's going to happen out here in the future years.
Yes, I look forward to seeing it. That is so awesome.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much.